So again, so happy to see you all and so excited about this conversation that Rachel and Elizabeth are going to start off having, and then want to hear from you if you feel called to share, ask questions, whatever is present for you. And something that you talked about, Rachel, because we had a conversation before this conversation, and something that you said really has stuck with me, and I've been thinking a lot about, which is moving the needle. What moves the needle for us? And I've been thinking about that a lot. And I have witnessed moving the needle and providing an offering and seeing that and witnessing that through the Maiden to Mother Circle, through being a doula, because having a baby, if that is someone's, that's just my experience, that's what I've witnessed, is I see the transformation from the maiden to the mother. And I see that through birth. And this has been really powerful. And, through that experience, through that process, it does move the needle. I do see transformation and change. And I did that first. And that's really my intention for the work that I do with people now, where it's not specific to pregnancy, it's not specific to birth. Seeing the transformation in the work that I do with other people and seeing the change. I feel like a lot of times investing in oneself, like in the wellness world, it can be, draw a really beautiful bath with rose petals and things. And that's really beautiful and great and all, but that's not what we're talking about. And I've had the pleasure of working as Rachel's doula and then her supporting me as my coach. I've supported Elizabeth when she was pregnant with her little girl, and us having a really beautiful conversation on the other side of that. So, it's full circle between the three of us, and I can see the transformation in myself through the work that I've done, in my process, through the work that I've done with Rachel and with other people. And I've seen that transformation in Elizabeth through our work together. And so I don't know, that's really stuck with me, just the moving the needle, because I agree, like what we were talking about was, there's some things that I participated in where it was really nice and great, but didn't really move the needle. It didn't really bring transformation. It didn't bring a change within myself. But there's definitely been many opportunities to see that change. And for me, and what I've witnessed in other people, it takes courage to change and do it differently and to do things differently. So I would love to hear from both of you, whatever you're hearing and whatever is present for you. But that's what I've been thinking about, and over and over again, just letting that integrate and marinate in my own process.
Elizabeth, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, what I think of the most is how it certainly takes courage to transform, but it takes courage to say yes to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because any invitation you have to grow and to be alongside someone, whether it's some sort of because you're reading a book that someone authored, or because you're hiring someone as a coach, or you're joining a group or a program or something, it's not the thing that you're saying yes to, it's yourself that you're saying yes to. And when I look back over, my journey in saying yes to myself, which started later in life than I wish it would, but all the timing is perfect, I can remember the first time I really invested some cold hard cash in myself. And that was really scary. And it certainly was not a muscle that was strong for me at the time. And so my mind got really involved, and I wanted to talk myself out of it a million times, and I almost did, but I didn't. And that first time saying yes kind of kicked me off on this path where more and more often I wasn't afraid to say yes to the invitations that came. And, when I think about moving the needle, there are some things that I said yes to that were so incredibly powerful and that totally moved the needle. Working with you, Paula, is one of them. Working with Rachel has been one of them. There have been others. And I've said yes to things that were kind of a bust in ways, and, really getting to see even the things that were the bust, I got something out of it. And it might not have been, in my mind, what I wanted to get out of it, or what, or for the price tag that I, in hindsight would feel okay about. But I don't know. I guess I just feel like in terms of moving the needle forward, there are times when I've had the clarity of knowing exactly what I want and why I'm saying yes. And then there are times when I'm a little less clear, but I feel called to it. So I kind of take a bigger leap. Like either I feel called to it, or I feel called to someone, or whatever it is at the time. And those are more often the things that have been deeply transformative, where I'm not quite clear, but I feel drawn to something.
Rachel?
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, I love this. Thanks again for having me in this conversation. I think, for me, the moving of the needle, we have to, and Elizabeth, you just said a little bit about this, but we have to get really clear on what we're after, right? What we want. Because, that old saying, like, it doesn't matter how far, how fast you go if you're going in the wrong direction. And so in terms of, investment, and Paula, and the way you wrote it out, I love it. Investment of time, energy, and money. All of those things are really valuable for all of us. And it's like, but investment in what? Like moving the needle towards what? And I think any one of us could name tons of things we would want. But I know for me, it's like, I have to really want it if I'm actually going to do something about it. Like it has to be like really, really. And I know over my many years of coaching people that, the main reason why people don't change, the main reason why transformation may not occur is because somebody doesn't want the thing they think they want enough. Because getting over the momentum, getting over the inertia, getting over the habit, getting over the old pattern, like you name it, it doesn't matter what it is. We're all the same. We all have it. Me too. And it's like, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important thing. Basically, if it's not an 11, it's just really hard to make stuff happen. Now, if it is an 11, I believe we can make anything happen, right? I mean, humans are the most resourceful, the most creative, right? The most amazing, creatures on the planet. I mean, the facilities that we have are unstoppable when we want something. So I think part of that, it's not working, or I'm not getting it, or, I thought it would be better by now, or I thought it would be more different, or I thought I'd be making more money, or, you fill in the blank again. It's like, well, we have to get super clear on like, what's in the way. And usually what's in the way is also wanting something else, right? Some competing intention, multiple desires in different directions. And it's when the needle moves, it's because we're very, very focused, and it's very, very clear that this is the most important thing. And then we can move any needle, I believe. And I've seen miracles, like people like never thought that could happen. Never thought I'd do that. Never thought that person, whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, happens all the time when we get really, really clear about the thing we want.
Yeah, I love that.
A silly story to share. But it just came to mind when I was listening to you share that, Rachel, just about setting a worthy goal, and how so often it's like we set the goal and then we think that that's the goal. And so we can maybe trick ourselves into it being an 11 for a little while, but then we peter out at some point. And I remember I set this goal that I love Italy. I love all things Italian. I, maybe in a past life or something, I was Italian. And I set this goal that I wanted to take my whole family, parents, siblings, everybody to Italy on a trip. And so I was like, okay, that's my goal. And I figured out like, how much money would that be? And, and okay, so now my goal has a lot of specifics. And as I sat with it more and more, I said, well, what's the worst that could happen if I get the goal? If I take my family to Italy, what's the worst that could happen? And as I sat with that, I was like, well, maybe they won't really like it. Maybe I'll be taking on them all having fun. Maybe they're going to feel like they can't get the type of food that they want to eat, or, or that there's not enough activities to do and they're not happy just like eating and drinking and, being in the sunshine. And I was like, the more that I really sat with the goal, I was like, I don't want to take my family to Italy at all. Like, I want to take me to Italy. And so, I mean, it's a silly story, but it is something that I do pretty often to kind of gut check my goals or my intentions or what I'm going to invest my time, my money, my energy into, to make sure that it's actually worthy. Because I think, you're exactly right. There's so many conflicting, competing thoughts or desires or stories that are running for all of us, that they can easily kind of knock us off. And when we are going for a goal that's not, like you say, the 11, when we get knocked off, which will inevitably happen, we feel crappy about ourselves. It doesn't feel good because we feel like we failed or we're not good enough or we're not doing it, when really it just wasn't an 11.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, the competing intentions. I mean, for some of you, like I've done that in circle, because even yesterday I was having a conversation with with my friend who was like past her due date. And we were having this call and this conversation, and she was just getting in her own way. She was she was competing with her intention. Her intention was to let go, but she was doing all these other things that weren't allowing her to let go. So things that would help her let go were schedule the induction, let's see, what else we talk about? Little things like take the castor oil, like little things. Again, just being, like you were saying, Rachel, just in alignment. That's what I got. That's what I heard when you did this. It's just alignment, like being in alignment with our intention. I was like, if I told my friend yesterday, if your intention is to let go, then do things that support you and your process to let go. And it's so crazy because we literally had this conversation. It was like 45 minutes. 3 hours later, she was in labor. 45 minutes later, she had her baby. I mean, wow. And again, it's more about what I saw in her in this conversation that we had was she let go. And she aligned with, what do I have to do to support my intention of letting go? And she did. And that was really powerful.
Yeah. What I think is interesting about that story is that part of what she needed to do to let go was like something that she didn't want to do, schedule the induction.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want that to happen, but that's the effort I need to put forth so that I can have the feeling that I want to have.
Exactly. And we talked about so many different options, but again, to bring her back to her intention, which was to let go and to be in divine timing. And she could see, like, I am so hanging on to self-will right now, like so hard. I want it my way. And the letting go, it's really just letting go of self-will And she did it, which is so cool and amazing. And I just got to witness her do it. It wasn't like I did anything. I just reminded her of what she already knew.
I have, I don't know about you guys, but I've not been great at exercising in COVID. So I've had the intention for a while now. It comes and goes, like, I really should exercise more. I should get out more. I should move around more. And I just keep not doing it. And for me, when I think I really want something, but I'm like, but it's not happening. It's like what happens in my mind is immediately like, oh, I just, and not in a bad way, in a negative way towards myself, like, oh yeah, no, I just don't want it enough. And it's a good thing. Like, it's good to know. It's like, oh yeah, when I want it enough, I've been in great shape before. I know how to get up and exercise. Like, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. And then I realized, like, oh yeah, there are things I'd rather do more. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm reading, I'm working on this project, I'm doing other things. It's like, yeah. And so guess what? It's been 2 years, might be another 2. I don't know. It's not time to exercise yet. It doesn't rise to the level of important enough for me. But again, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but it's in my mind, like, yeah, it's a really good idea. But until it gets more important, like some days it happens, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so exercise doesn't really work that way. But I'm okay with that because I'm like, oh yeah, it's just not important enough to me right now. And that the whole point of it is to be important, kind of in like organically become that important. And when it does, I will exercise again. And that will be great. And I know I will love it. But like right now, no, like I got other things I'm working on. And when I start to go into the, like, I really need to exercise more. Why am I not doing this? And that monologue, it's like, oh no, the reason I'm not doing it is because it's not that important yet. When it gets important enough, I'll do it. And I know I will, but I don't know when. I don't know when.
Rachel, one of the things that I remember you saying to me once was that, I had all of these things that I wanted to do in the course of, I don't know, a day or a weekend or whatever. And you said, well, you're not a vampire who never sleeps. So you have to choose, and you can't choose everything. And just that, to me, it's like, oh, I'm going to choose. If I get to choose and I can't choose it all, then let me choose the things that are truly the most important to me. Like not everything can win.
Yeah. And not everything in the end actually is that important.
Yeah.
I mean, it just isn't. There might be a lot of things that are important, but then they're not as important today as next week, right? There's always a way to suss it out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just hear from everyone else that feels called to be here. I'm just like interested, like as you hear us speak, like how is this resonating for you? How is it landing?
Hi, is it okay if I speak? My name's Francia.
Of course, absolutely, please.
How it's landing for me is, for this past year, I have been, I guess, like in a position that like I've always wanted in motherhood and I guess career-wise, which is to be able to work from home, I guess, but be able to be there for my kids at the same time. And I've always been like a worker, an achiever, like since I was 15. And I left this like really high paying hospital role. And I've been kind of struggling just in terms of like, okay, am I really happy? Like I have what I wanted, like I'm working part-time, the money is way less, but what I'm doing, I feel good about it. But then just the battle, the internal battle of like, oh, I need to achieve, I need to make a certain amount of income, I need to do all these things. And so as you guys are speaking, I'm just thinking about, I just wrote down, I can't choose it all. Not everything, like you mentioned, can win. So what's more important, the money or how I want to feel with my family? So that's what's kind of coming up for me.
Yeah. Well, amen. I mean, what a great opportunity to say, right? To just get clear is like, yeah, there's trade-offs. And there are. Me too. There's trade-offs. And sometimes there aren't trade-offs. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes we do get it all, but not a lot of times. Not a lot of times. So I appreciate that you're willing to look at like, yeah, it's less money, but it's more this and it's more this and it's less that. And it's like, what's important today might change from what's important next week or next month or next year. And you can change it, right? Because nothing stays the same. So it's like what you choose now, you might not choose later. Maybe now the money isn't as important, but the time at home is. But maybe that changes. The kids get a little older and you're like, no, actually, like they're okay now. Now I'd rather have more money so I can work more. You get to decide.
Yeah. Last November, I did a public service project for entrepreneurs, and it was called Breathing Room. And in the project, I invited a little over 20 other entrepreneurs to answer the same question. And the question was, how has opting out of hustle culture increased your success? And as each person shared their story, and some people wrote something, some people spoke, but they all shared their response to that same question. And it was really beautiful for me to kind of witness all of these really personal stories come in. And one of the things that I noticed was that in order for people to create more actual breathing room in their life, and part of that is in a practical way, your schedule not being jam-packed, but the other part of breathing room is it's here. And one of the things I noticed was that in order for people to create more breathing room, they had to really examine or re-examine how they define success. And I think in our culture, success is really defined as all of these outward external things, including like the money, right? Especially when we're talking about work. And so when the money part of it shifts, like you're talking about in your life, it can really throw us off and go, oh, well, am I still successful? Am I doing it right? And to me, I think it's a really beautiful inquiry, because you get to decide for yourself what your achievement system looks like, instead of just subscribing to the achievement system that's like, modeled out there in the world. Like you get to define it for yourself. And so, money might be more important at some time and less important at other times. And there's all of these different other ways to define success. It's like, it reminds me of the Whole30 diet, which I've never done myself, but when you do the Whole30 diet, they have this big checklist. And so it's not just what does the number on the scale say, it's how do my clothes fit? Do I have more energy? Am I sleeping better? Is my skin more clear? There's like all of these other ways to measure success that's not just about the number. And I think in terms of work, and when you redefine your work and your kind of way of being in your life, like working from home and being with your family more for you right now, there's all of these other metrics of success to also take into consideration.
Love what you both are saying. It's so crazy because I was a part of the breathing room, so I got to share my story, which was so powerful and so beautiful. So thank you, Elizabeth, for creating that platform to be able to share. And Rachel, I love, in the work that we've done together, that reminder of that we're this evolving being, always changing. And just because something looks a certain way today doesn't mean in a month it has to be the same. And I have seen that personally in my own life, being, at Women's Space, and what my life looked like, what my family life looked like, how many hours there are in one day, how I was spending my time and my energy, the money that I was making, like all of it. It just looks very different now, very, very different now. And not to be in that thought place of one was better than the other. This is just what it looks like now, period. Not going into, oh, I was more successful when I had the four walls of women, like none of that conversation with myself. It's just like, yeah, this is what my life looks like. today. And it haven't always been an acceptance of that. I am now, but the process to get to that place is the solution for me, to be in acceptance and to know that it can change at any point. It could change tomorrow. It could change a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. To me, that is so freeing to know that, and to live in that, and to think that way about myself, about my own life. It frees me up to just be creative. Like, it just frees up mental space, which is great. Anyone else have a question?
Hi. I would love to
Hi.
ask something.
Yeah.
As I know a little bit about you, and I'm imagining with the other women too, we're multifaceted and have several things that we are talented at or working towards. How do you, I love what you guys are saying about allowing life to change and ebb and flow as it goes. How do you focus on what to work next? Or follow, like for me, for example, I'm really in the healing space too, with sound healing and working with psilocybin, but I'm also a painter and working in the arts. So I'm always bouncing between the two, which I love that I can do that. But sometimes I feel as one wants more attention than the other. Is it the same type of feeling of just going with the flow of what is wanting to be present at that time? Or how do you balance your your work, your different type of work? If that made any sense.
Yes, no, it did. It did make sense. I mean, for me, it's not so much about what I do. It's more of a being within myself. So instead of like, oh, I'm spending time doing this and versus this, it's just a shift in the way that I think about myself. So it really doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's more of how am I being as I'm doing the thing that I'm doing.
Got it.
That's what it is for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I say something on that?
Of course.
I think as I was listening to you, I think it really goes to this idea of, and you say you're kind of in the flow. So maybe the healing gets more energy or time one week or 1 month, and then the painting kind of picks up and more of that, and the other thing falls away. And I mean, one question is like, is that a problem? Because that might be a great life. It just to go with the ebb and flow of two great things, and it sounds like you love both. So like, I don't know if there is a problem. There might not be a problem. That might be just perfect. Because at any given moment, the thing you're doing is the thing you want to be doing. If you want to be doing more of painting, you'll be doing more of painting. And if you want to be doing more of healing, you'll be doing more of healing. When those things get out of whack, you'll know, I'm guessing, like, why am I painting? I really want to be doing the healing. I really want to be on journeys. I want to be doing something else. And you'll go do it. You'll go do it. And so if you feel like, I don't know, it's like you could get quiet, to Paula's point of being, kind of be with yourself and be like, is this really a problem? Or do I think I should be more balanced? I'm more and more, the older I get, like, fuck balance. There's no such thing. So like, I'm kind of eliminating it from my vocabulary, but it's like, maybe there is no problem. Maybe the way you do it in an organic way, in and out, up and down, is great. Maybe there's no problem at all. So maybe it's that you're giving in to some idea of what you think it should look like. when in fact the way it is fine. And if when you check in, you're like, well, no, it's not fine because I really do want X, well, then you'll do that.
That resonates so much. Thank you. I think that's exactly it. The outside pressure of should and productivity and things like this. But yeah, and I love stepping into that wild woman of just doing what feels right.
Yeah, maybe there's
great.
no problem at all.
No, there's not. Thank you so much.
I had a long conversation with the wife of a client of mine last night because he was saying like, she's so anxious and she's always worked up and whatever. So I said, well, if she wants to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to her. So I get on the phone with this woman last night. She was a little wacky, I'll be honest, but she was all over the place. She worked like 80-hour weeks and she has no boundaries and she's always answering calls at 2 a.m. I mean, but you know what? She was fine with it. She was like, well, yeah, I'm kind of tired. And yeah, I mean, I know it's crazy that I'm answering the phone at 2 a.m., whatever. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't seem like it's that big a problem. I mean, your husband's a little worried about you, but even he doesn't seem to be like, if she doesn't stop, I'm leaving her. Like, he's just worried that maybe you're overdoing it, but he doesn't even seem to care that you're on the phone during dinner every night. But again, in the world, people are like, oh, you shouldn't have your phone at dinner. But like, if you don't have kids and your husband doesn't care and you're both on your phones at dinner, maybe that's a great way to live for you guys. Like maybe there's no problem with you being as worked up and anxious as you are. And she was like, yeah, I mean, I see that I'm really anxious and I see that I have no boundaries and like, but I don't know, I kind of like what I'm doing. I was like, great, bye. I mean, she was fine, you know, until your husband says he's leaving you because you're never around. Like, okay, I don't see a problem. She's like, well, my friends all tell me I work too much. I was like, yeah, but what do they know? Like, you're still going out to dinner with them enough that they're telling you that. Like, I mean, maybe for you, working 80-hour weeks is perfect. Maybe that's exactly what you want to be doing. And everybody else and boundaries and all the things that other people care about, like, it's just not a thing for you. She was like, okay, great. And off she went. So everybody's got their own way, right? That was actually the conversation I had with this woman. Like, I said, is your husband, you know, your husband wanted me to talk to you. Is he going to leave you? Like, is he putting his foot down? Like, this relationship isn't working? She was like, no, I don't see the problem. You're tired, sleep. You want to work all night, work all night. That was it. I said, I don't really think you need any help. You seem fine. She said, okay. Off she went.
See, I love that. I love that. And that's the way of being that I was talking about through what you're sharing in that story. It's so freeing to be like, whatever, you don't have any boundaries, you want to work all night. To me, that's so freeing. I love that. I love that there are no rules. I love that.
Well, and to get back to your point and the point of this conversation about investing in ourselves is here, I think, you know, her husband even was saying like, you should do this. And, you know, her friends, or you should get help and you're too working too much and all this. And in the end, it's like, there was no investment needed. What she wants to invest in is her career. She likes working. She likes her job. She likes doing what she's doing. She likes the notoriety of it. Like, she's great. So like her investment is like, no, I want to put time and money and my energy into my career because that's what I want to do right now. It's like, well, do that. Do that.
I love that.
Like, it doesn't matter what the investment's in as long as it's the thing you want. And she didn't want self-help and coaching and this and that and fix my anxiety. No interest. She was like, yeah, I like what I'm doing. I'm like, great. Till you have an ulcer, carry on. You know, I'm like, call me when you get an ulcer. You know, like, okay.
It's so interesting too, because it's like her husband wanted that investment to look a certain way.
Yeah.
But instead, the investment was in something else, her time and energy. And who are we to judge whether she should or she shouldn't? I mean, that's non-judgmental observation. It's like, okay, that's how you want to spend your time. So be it.
Right.
Yeah.
So be it.
I've been thinking so much lately about how we can kind of like grab onto the thing, like the thing of, oh, you shouldn't work so hard. The thing of, you shouldn't answer the phone at 2 a.m. The things, when really it's like how we relate to the things that matters the most.
Yeah.
So if she's answering the phone at 2 a.m., but she's totally cool with it and she actually likes it, and that's how she's relating to it, then great.
Yeah.
But if the phone rings at 2 a.m. and she's like, oh God, I don't want to, and I have to, and so hello, like then there's a problem there. But
and I think I gave her their permission to just like do that. And I said, look, to be honest, when I have my next call with your husband, I'm going to make sure his message wasn't, it's over unless she gets it together, which I don't think it was. I'm like, but I'm going to confirm that with him, but I think he's fine with it. She's like, yeah, I think he is too. I was okay, have at it. But she didn't have the feeling of like, oh, why are people calling me at 2 a.m.? She kind of was jazzed by it. Like, people need me all the time. I was like, you know, do you want to look at any of these things, like no boundaries and being needed and whatever? She was like, no, it's great. I was like, great. Like, she doesn't have kids. They don't have kids. I'm like, she doesn't have a dog. She doesn't need to be home. I was like, amazing. Yeah. Sandra, I know you wanted to say something.
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to say that I have invested in myself, I think, with Paula. I have seen the light very late in life, but I found I started a women's circle for women that were older and that were like empty nesters and things like that. My issue is, or it's not an issue really, is how can I say it? I think as I'm talking and listening to you all speak, that I'm like, this country, this sort of way of being is still very much driven by what we receive back financially, just because it has to be. I've made a choice to spend money on certain things to invest in myself, but my husband's very ill. So all of our money is going into that pot. I didn't work when our three kids were growing up. So this is new to me, just starting up a business that's not making very much money. But I'm starting to think perhaps the payout isn't financial, even though it needs to be in order to pay for healthcare. The payout is that I'm learning things about myself that I didn't know before. So I'm trying to appreciate that aspect of what I'm going through. It's really hard when circumstance delivers you bad things, but in saying that, I feel like I'm learning a lot, like not to compare myself to others, which has been a huge issue of mine. And when I lead my circles too, I just sort of reiterate that we can't cherry pick and think that so-and-so has it better than me. Because we don't know because we're not walking in their shoes. Or yeah, it's just again, just listening to you all speak, it's hard not to go to the financial aspect, but I'm really trying hard, and I see the gift that I'm receiving from just doing the work. So I don't want to let go of this, doing the work, because I think I'm receiving. And my husband and I had an interesting conversation, because I think he too, through his illness, has able to see, like he's had an awakening. So we do have spiritual conversations now. So that's also a gift, because I think the old him didn't have that. So I guess my point or what I'm saying is that it's not always the gift you think it's going to be, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But it is still very challenging for me to work out a balance, because we've basically spent our nest egg just on healthcare. So now what kind of thing? But yeah, I don't want to give up doing what I'm doing. It's not like I had a huge corporate job before either. So it's hard to balance all of that out. But I'm hoping that there's the universe is presenting itself in this unique way, with these unique gifts, and I'm taking them into hand, and into my heart, basically. So I don't even know what my question is, but it is difficult when our society is based still on finances, I think, to get around that. If I were Mother Teresa, perhaps it would be easier, but I'm not quite there yet. So thank you.
Sandra, are you interested in talking about it at all, or do you want to leave it at that?
No, I'm interested, sure.
Well, because I was wondering if in your mind, and again, I know you a little bit just from some of Paula's events, but I don't know you very well, but if there's maybe a way to decouple the finances from what you're doing, because I hear in you, and again, if you have Paula and your team, then you are in some deep work of transformation. It sounds like you're getting a lot out of it personally.
Yes.
And in your relationship, for example. And right,
That's ebb and flow too, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert comes to mind.
Oh, right.
And she is a very famous now, writer and author. I think she writes screenplays and books and all sorts of things. But before she was successful financially and reputable, she worked at TGI Fridays for a long time because she didn't want to put the pressure on her art. She knew she had to be a writer. It was in her soul to be a writer, but it was not, she had no idea if she would ever be successful at it, i.e. be able to support herself doing it. And so to take the pressure off of her art and her writing, which she absolutely was not negotiable to her, she got a job at TGI Fridays and she worked there for many years. And she worked there even after her most famous book, Eat, Pray, Love, was sold and came out and became a big hit. It was very hard for her to let go of her TGI Fridays job because she was like, I don't want to put the pressure of needing to support myself on my art. Now it got to a point where obviously she didn't have to worry about that. But I have kept that with me, that story with me. So, just for years since I've read that book, is like, sometimes we have to decouple what's happening. And if there's work that you want to do in the circles you want to do, amazing. And maybe there's a TGI Fridays job because we all need money. I need money.
Problem is I'm old. So I'm old, older than, it's just hard. It's just, we're in a bad position right now. It's not horrific in the sense, well, it is, but it's not so horrific in that I'm seeing a light and I'm thinking, I've talked to Paula and I know I try to not make it about the money, but unfortunately we also need the money. So it's an odd time to be starting something that's not sort of doing a huge payout, but equally, it's not like I had a huge payout before. We just have to figure out circumstances, I suppose. And as I was saying, perhaps the payout is more in non-financial means. It's just an inner knowing of this. It's the gift of seeing things when they're at their worst, and finding the bright light, kind of. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what that is still, but just listening to you all speak is sort of reconfirming that in my mind. Someone's trying to call through, sorry. Story of my life.
I just want to say one thing, just what Rachel was saying. It's like, what'd you say, like decoupling or uncoupling it, like really separating it, not like putting it together in your mind, like in the story, like in the story of just your life and what you've experienced with Robert. And just like, maybe that's a question, like, oh, if I like create a new story, what would that be for myself, with the thought of decoupling? I don't know.
Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I find I am more removing myself. So that is a good point, because I am ironically removing myself from the story. I used to go into the story and take on other people's stories and make them all amazing, around me. And mine was so pitiful, kind of thing. So I feel like I have come a ways, and trying to sort of, not trying so hard, I guess is the point. Like again, yeah, removing myself from the equation a bit and just experiencing versus trying. Because as you know, Paula, try to see the story way too much. So maybe that's it, just sort of letting things unfold. I find I'm presented by a lot of people who, in my mind, I know for a fact, I used to look at them and go, oh, they've got it so easy, they've got it better, but it would all come down to the fact that they've got a healthy household, right? It really does come down to health. Like my mother always said, if you're healthy, you've got everything. And it's true, right? But there are other gifts that I've been presented, with my husband being sort of being on death's door every so often, right? Like there just is. There's gifts there to be had.
You know, Sandra, I'm reminded of, I was just talking to someone yesterday about this quote by E.L. Doctorow, who's a famous writer many years ago. And he said, writing is like driving at night in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way.
I love that.
And the same could be said of life, right? He didn't have to say writing. He could have said life is like driving at night in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way.
Yeah, and that's very much how we're doing it. So I love that. That's a great, and who was that?
E.L. Doctorow.
Because yes, Paula knows I love my quotes too.
It makes me think of, there's a passage by Byron Katie that when I first discovered it years ago, really infuriated me. And now I really come to embrace it in my life, but it goes that you never need more money than you actually have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny, like not haha funny, but interesting when you're brought to your knees and you see the world. Like it is very, like it is a gift. I mean, that's what my husband and I were saying. It doesn't always work to sustain, but you're absolutely right. You can make it work on some level for sure. And that may be where we were meant to go on this journey. That just may be what we were meant to do, to see, and to see what we've seen in terms of the humanity of it all. And because we have seen humanity, we've seen good, bad, and everything else. But we've definitely seen humanity at work.
And I like what Rachel shared about decoupling the money from your work, because I think that, to get ultra clear in how much money do you actually need? Truly, it might be a different number than you think that you need, or that you've needed in the past, or I have no idea. But to really say, what are we willing to do? Am I willing to go get the job at TGI Fridays because we need this? Am I willing to put the pressure on this work? Because it sounds like what you're doing in your own growth and using all of the things that are occurring in your life as teachers, you're alchemizing that, and you can bring that to all of the women that you're serving. And so you get to decide, am I willing to really lean on my work to make this money? Am I willing to, I don't know, sell the house to make this money? Am I willing, like, I don't know what your life is like, because I don't know you outside of this phone call, but for each of us, we all have things that we are willing to do and not willing to do. And we get to use that as a barometer to make our decisions.
Yes. Yeah, I'll take a look at that for sure.
I was just going to jump in and say too, that in some of what you're saying, there seems like there's some limiting beliefs that exist, like saying you're old, so you can't find a job or a good job. And I think part of the decoupling is also looking at, you can get a great job and believing that, and not attaching the, well, I can't do the work I want to do and make a lot of money. and saying like, I can, and just that openness to it.
Right. Oh, still work to be done. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sandra. Anyone else? Sarah?
Hi,
Hi.
this is resonating so much with me on so many levels. And what's coming forward really is just the thing that's really feels like it's in my way is investing in myself again, in just in that belief in myself. I keep finding I'm trying to do, so many things, probably some competing intentions, and I'm getting like a little bit of a way in each of them. But I feel like I'm really underneath it all. I'm actually really kind of keeping myself comfortable. And I keep kind of getting to a point where I just don't have, like, I can stay in my bubble and I can believe in myself all day. But when I get to that point of taking action based on that, then I get really stuck. And I think I'm just wondering, like, how do I move through that? There are some things that I can identify that I kind of little ways of kind of putting myself out there. And it feels like a little success, but on the grander scheme, I've kind of been in this place for like a few years now. And I'm feeling like I'm kind of distracting myself with, learning, with classes, with like, I'm kind of an eternal student. But when it comes to actually, believing that I can do it and being in the presence of others and saying, this is what I can help you with, or this is, then I find it very, very hard. I've kind of come up against this so many times. And I'm just wondering, like, what does breaking through that look like without me kind of punishing myself for not going fast enough or far enough, or as far as I think I should be?
Well, I mean, I think it's really easy to look at everyone else out there in the world and be like, oh my God, they're going so much faster. When really it's taken them eons. We just haven't seen that work because that work isn't on display, or that work wasn't public because nobody was paying attention then, right? And so I think part of it is really just catching the comparison of that and how it's not serving. And, I coach a lot of women entrepreneurs, and a lot of them at the beginning of like building something, in the beginning could go on for years. They're like, oh, but I need to get my website first, and I need to get the business cards printed, and then I need to do this, and then and take this course and get this certification, and like all the things before they can actually do the thing they want to do. And oftentimes I think that's just a postponement of doing the thing that you actually want to do the most. And so I don't know, I wonder if there's a way to, you talked about these little wins, and it's like to like collect them and use them for like the next win and the next win, so that you're inside the energy of creation rather than the energy of learning. Like there are different ways of learning, and you can totally learn by like being a student and like being inside something that looks like a more traditional learning environment, or you can learn by like getting out there and doing and seeing. And so it might just be giving yourself a permission to do that before you feel that you're ready, just to see.
It reminds me, my father is a surgeon. He's 82 now, but when people become doctors, they go through 4 years of medical school where they really don't do much doctoring at all. And then on day one of their, internship, they are doctor, right? It is Dr. Jones, Dr. Smith, Dr. Malice, Dr. Rosenberg, like they're a doctor. So my dad went through 4 years of medical school. And on the first day of his internship, he went into an operating room in a white coat that said Dr. Rosenberg, because he had participated in the graduation ceremony the day before, and they handed him a scalpel. Now, there were lots of other senior surgeons in the room, but he was a doctor from day one. He was the surgeon from day one. Was he ready? No. Did he know anything? No. Did they let him do much? No. But he was Dr. Rosenberg from the 9 years later. He was still Dr. Rosenberg. Nothing changed. Still Dr. Rosenberg on day one and then 9 years later when he finally finished all his fellowships. But it's like, I don't know how many classes you've taken, and to Elizabeth's point, all the things you've done, I don't know. But okay, I don't know if you're ready or not, but if you really want it, you'll just go do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like day one, he graduated on this day, and the next day he was Dr. Rosenberg and they handed him a scalpel. Like, okay. So that could be you. Tomorrow could be day one. Today could be day one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that really resonates.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah, it's so true. When I finished my doula training, which is only a weekend, by the way, I was like, great, like, who am I going to shadow? Like, oh, cool. Anna Paula, I'm going to shadow you. She's like, no, there's no shadowing. You just go to a birth. I'm like, wait, what? Because I learned by the experience.
Yeah.
And thank God that I was not shadowing her, because it was so interesting how my ego could just be in that, like, well, she knows more than I do, so I'm just going to watch her, instead of just, which was very scary for me at the time, to really show up and not be shadowing like the person that taught me what I know, or the teacher, and to really just be in the experience. It was scary.
Yeah.
And then when I was leading, she left, she was here, but circle facilitator training, this one person asked, well, what do I need to do for circle? How, is this certification like enough? I'm like, just lead a freaking circle. Like, you don't have to like there's nothing to do. Like, I didn't do anything. I just gathered a bunch of friends and made mung beans and rice. And like, I don't know, like, let's see what happens. It's like, we get so caught up in our heads of well, I should do this and I should do that. And it should look like this. It should look like that. It's like, no, it doesn't. Says who? Who's the boss here? Who's making up the rules? Just do it.
Yeah. And by just doing it, that's how you build the confidence up, right? Because like,
Exactly.
we want to wait until we're confident, but it's in doing the thing that's new to us, that's stretching us, that we become confident the more and more we do it. And so, Sarah, I love what you brought, because it sounds like you've been investing time in being a student. You've been investing money, I imagine, in all of these things. And so it feels like, my sense is that the next kind of threshold for you is to invest the energy of belief in yourself, to just do it more and more and more and more.
And to be clear, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have a client right now who is, I don't know what to do with her, to be quite frank. And so I called my old mentor and I said, can I talk to you for a minute? Because this woman, I said, I think I'm out of my league. And you know what she said to me? And I love this woman, and I know she loves me. And she goes, oh, you're totally out of your league. You're so far in over your head. She said, it's great. You're going to learn so much. And I was like, are you trying to help me and inspire me with confidence? She's like, no, it's going to be a shit show. It's going to be great. And I was like, okay. She's like, call me back in a couple of weeks. Tell me how it's going. I was like, okay. So it's like, it doesn't end, but like, I know I'm going to do right by this woman. I show up, I try to drive whatever I can. I think of stuff, whatever. I'm like, is it going to help her? I don't know, but that's on her. It's not on me, but like, okay, like I'm willing to go for it. And is it uncomfortable when she calls me? I'm like, I have no idea what to say to this woman. You bet. But hey, she's calling me and I'm willing. So I'm like, okay, let's see. Some days we have a good talk. Some days we don't. Okay. It's okay.
I love that. I can so relate to that. Same thing. I called my mentor. I was like, this is not for me. Like, really, she should call you. And you know, she said to me the same thing. She was like, oh no, you're perfect for her.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
Yep. Never end.
Thank God.
Yeah.
You know, thank God. Because I didn't, you know, miss it.
Yep.
I didn't miss it.
Thanks everyone so much for this conversation. Thanks, Paula, for having us.
Thank you, Rachel and Elizabeth, for being here and just sharing your wisdom, and all of you for your questions. It was a beautiful hour spent together. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.